Hi there. Welcome to What If from Koala. I'm Liam, and as always, I'm joined by Mike Shorey, our expert in social research. Today, we're diving into a hilariously brilliant question from XKCD's What If series. What if you used a flamethrower as a snowblower? You know, if you were in Boston back in 2015 like I was, buried under what felt like endless snow, the idea of mounting a flamethrower on your car to clear the roads probably didn't seem quite so insane. I mean, we had more snow in a single month than Anchorage, Alaska usually gets in an entire winter. It was wild. The city just ground to a halt. Public transit broke down. Roofs were like literally collapsing under the weight. I vividly remember the mayor looking utterly defeated, saying something like, "I don't know what to say to anybody anymore. Hopefully it will stop eventually." So trust me, snow removal became less of a chore and more of an existential crisis. You start thinking about any solution, no matter how wild.
Yeah, and that's what makes Matt's question so brilliant, isn't it? It perfectly blends that absurd, sort of desperate thought with genuine scientific curiosity. It hits that sweet spot of funny science that we absolutely love to explore here. Because while the image of a flamethrower-equipped car is, well, wild and maybe a little terrifying, the underlying physics reveal something truly surprising. Just how incredibly, astonishingly difficult snow is to melt. It's far more stubborn than you'd ever imagine. And here's where we kick off with the first truly counterintuitive revelation from Matt's question. Believe it or not, Matt's initial flamethrower idea is actually the more practical of the two options he suggested. He also considered a high-powered microwave emitter.
Wait, what? Seriously?
Yeah.
A flamethrower is more practical than a high-tech microwave. My brain's kind of struggling with that one. Microwaves feel so much cleaner, more precise, futuristic, less inherently dangerous to your mailbox. Is there some hidden drawback?
Oh, there's a drawback, all right. Sure, a high-powered microwave sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, very sleek. But try to melt snow with it, and you'll quickly realize, well, if you also want to fry your neighbor's Wi-Fi signal, their smart doorbell, maybe even their own microwave oven at the same time, then yeah, go for the microwave.
Okay.
That's one of the immediate, albeit humorous, advantages of the flamethrower. It won't interfere with, say, your router or anyone else's unless you literally aim it directly at the device. Microwaves. Not so much. They're excellent at what they do, but their very nature means they're going to broadcast energy far and wide, messing with all sorts of signals.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the idea that a flamethrower is more practical than a high-tech microwave emitter is genuinely mind-bending. I mean, microwaves are clean and efficient, right? We use them in our kitchens, not flamethrowers. What's the big problem with the microwave approach when it comes to snow? It heats things, doesn't it?
That's the common perception, yeah. And it's mostly true for what they're designed for. Microwaves get a lot of credit for heating things quickly. But here's the nuance, and it's a critical one for our deep dive. Microwaves heat liquid water incredibly well. They excite those water molecules, making them vibrate like crazy and generate heat. However, and this is the crucial part, they work very poorly on frozen water.
Wait, so microwaves don't melt ice? That feels fundamentally wrong. I use my microwave to defrost food all the time. Frozen chicken, bags of veggies.
Nope, they're incredibly picky. They love liquid water. Ice, not so much. Think about it. When you defrost food in a microwave, doesn't it often end up with some parts still frozen solid while others are already warm or even cooked through?
Yeah, totally. That's super annoying.
Right. That's because the microwave is struggling to penetrate and heat the frozen parts evenly. It's essentially waiting for a small portion to melt into liquid water, and then it focuses its energy there, which is why you get those frustrating hot spots. It's a fundamental limitation when trying to deal with a massive block of frozen H2O, like, say, a foot of snow across your driveway. The microwaves just kind of pass right through the ice, doing very little, until a tiny bit of liquid water forms, and then that's where all the energy goes. It's wildly inefficient for a large-scale frozen problem. So while the microwave sounds elegant, its interaction with ice is far from efficient. And it's not the only imaginative solution Matt explored, The source also considered other theoretical ways to get energy into snow, like high-powered infrared heat lamps, which are brilliant at radiating warmth, or even focused lasers.
Lasers?
Yeah, the imagination can truly run wild trying to find the perfect melting tool. But no matter what method you choose to try and generate that heat, fire, microwaves, light, whatever, you quickly run into an even bigger problem. A truly universal problem that physics throws at us.
Okay, so if microwaves are a bust because ice is basically invisible to them, and even lasers or heat lamps were on the table, what's the fundamental, even bigger problem you mentioned? The one that applies to all these melting ideas. Is it just the sheer volume of snow? Or something else?
The even bigger problem, and this is the absolute real killer for any snow melting fantasy, is the sheer amount of energy required to melt snow. It's absolutely enormous. To put it into precise terms, melting a single gram of snow takes about 335 joules of energy. Now, a joule, for anyone not deep in physics, is the standard unit of energy. It's roughly the energy needed to lift, like, a small apple about 3 feet off the ground.
Okay, 335 joules per gram. That sounds tiny for a tiny amount.
Yeah.
But my gut is telling me, you're about to tell me it scales up terrifyingly fast.
Yeah.
Okay, put that into perspective. Like, what does that translate to in terms of something we all have at home, like a light bulb?
You're absolutely right. It scales up incredibly fast. And yeah, the light bulb comparison is perfect, if a bit depressing. If you take a standard 60-watt incandescent light bulb, the old school kind that actually gets hot, it's only capable of melting about a pound of snow an hour.
1 pound, an hour.
Just 1 pound, an hour. Imagine standing outside with a single light bulb trying to clear your driveway after a blizzard. It's utterly useless. And if you're using a modern 60-watt equivalent LED bulb, which is far more energy efficient and generates way less waste heat, well, it's even worse. It's only capable of melting a pound of snow every 6 or 7 hours.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The source humorously concludes, and I absolutely agree, this is a case where a light bulb does not represent a good idea. You'd be out there for days barely making a dent.
That's astonishingly slow. Okay, so let's ditch the light bulb and go big. Let's scale up to a real-world scenario. The source gives us this truly illustrative calculation, one that really makes you appreciate the scale, right? Imagine a decent snowstorm. We're talking about a foot of snow, which is roughly equivalent to an inch of rain in water content. And you're not just clearing your driveway. You want to melt a decent, say, 9-foot wide path in front of your car while driving along at a brisk 55 miles per hour, like clearing a whole highway lane.
Exactly. A serious operation. And for those of you who might be getting annoyed by mixing all these different units, feet, miles per hour, inches of rain, joules, this is one of those happy physics situations the source describes. If you track your units rigorously, they magically cancel out, leaving you with exactly the unit you need for the final answer. Power, in this case.
Ah, satisfying. Like a physics puzzle.
Totally. You just multiply all the numbers together, the calculator handles the unit conversions, and boom, and the astonishing result. To melt that foot of snow in a 9-foot wide path while moving at 55 megawatts per hour, you would need an absolutely colossal 574 megawatts of power.
574
Yeah.
megawatts. Whoa. That sounds like a lot. What does that even compare to? Like a power plant?
It is power plant territory, a big one. To give you a direct jaw-dropping comparison, the nuclear reactor on an aircraft carrier, right? One of the most powerful mobile reactors on Earth. It produces less than 200 megawatts.
Less than 200.
Yeah. So to melt the snow in front of your car at that speed, you'd effectively need 3 nuclear reactors from aircraft carriers, all working together just to clear a path.
3 aircraft carrier reactors on my car.
Basically, yeah. Think about that. A fleet of floating power plants just to get you to work on time after a snowstorm.
So instead of melting snow, you've basically built a weapon of mass inconvenience that also happens to be a rolling nuclear hazard. I'm thinking the neighbors are going to have more to complain about than just the Wi-Fi being fried.
Probably. Definitely more worried about a meltdown.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting, because we started this whole conversation with the flamethrower. That was Matt's original, admittedly impractical idea. But how does it stack up against this insane energy requirement? Could the sheer energy of fire, like from burning gasoline, actually win this battle?
Yes, back to the original flamethrower. It's a good question because gasoline, the typical fuel, has a phenomenally high energy density. What that means is it packs an incredible amount of stored energy into a very small volume or mass. That's why it's great for cars, right? Powers them for hundreds of miles on a relatively small tank. You might think, given the massive energy required, that this high energy density would be the solution.
Yeah, it seems logical. More bang for your buck, sort of.
But here's the crushing reality. Even with that incredibly high energy density, it is simply not high enough for this test. The energy required to melt snow, as we just established with the whole 3 nuclear reactors thing, is so astronomically high that no matter how big the fuel tank on your flamethrower rig is, you would constantly, perpetually run out of fuel. It's like trying to fill an Olympic swimming pool with an eyedropper.
Yeah.
The rate of consumption would just be absurd.
So what does this all mean for our hypothetical flamethrower car? What are we talking about in terms of actual fuel consumption? Give us the hard, painful numbers. I think I can take it.
Okay, brace yourself. The numbers are indeed pretty dire. In terms of mileage, your flamethrower or snowblower would get you about 17 feet per gallon.
17.
Yeah?
Feet, not miles. Feet.
Feet per gallon. To put that in context, most cars get hundreds of miles per gallon, right? You'd barely clear your driveway before needing a refill.
Wow, okay.
And to keep up with that 55 mile per hour melting pace we calculated earlier, you'd be guzzling fuel at an insane rate, almost 5 gallons per second.
5 gallons a second.
Almost 5 gallons of gasoline gone, poof, in the blink of an eye. Can you imagine the logistical nightmare of constantly refueling? You'd need a convoy of tanker trucks following you just to keep the flamethrower fed for a few seconds of melting.
Yeah, that's completely impractical. Forget the danger, the cost alone.
Exactly. It makes the whole idea utterly unworkable for anything beyond maybe a very, very short, very desperate burst in an isolated spot. So what's the ultimate takeaway from all this? All the energy math, fuel consumption. The source's conclusion, which is rooted firmly in physics, is clear and pretty pragmatic. It's better to just abandon the melting idea entirely. The physics are just stacked against you. The energy cost for that phase change from solid ice to liquid water is simply too high to be practical on a large scale for something as common as snow.
So melting is out. What's the alternative then? What do people actually do for massive snow clearing?
Well, instead, you should take a cue from real-world solutions that have grappled with this problem for decades. Think about rail agencies, for example. When they need to clear train tracks from heavy snow, especially in remote areas where plowing is tough, they don't try to melt it. That would be futile, way too expensive. What they use are jet engine-powered snowblowers.
Wait, jet engines? Like off a plane?
Essentially, yes. They mount a jet engine onto a rail car and literally blast the snow off the tracks with incredibly powerful air currents. It's all about moving the snow, not transforming its state. They're not heating it. They're shoving it out of the way with brute force wind.
A jet engine snowblower. That's both terrifying and utterly magnificent in its audacity. I mean, yeah, you definitely wouldn't want to aim that jet engine at your neighbor's picket fence.
Yeah.
Or your car or, anything living.
Definitely not.
But it really drives home the point, doesn't it? Sometimes the most straightforward, maybe less clever sounding solution is the one that actually works. It's just about displacement.
It really does. It reinforces the core lesson here. When it comes to snow, and often with physics challenges in general, sometimes the simplest solution is actually the most effective one. It's simply easier and vastly more energy efficient to just move the snow out of your way, rather than try to change its state from solid to liquid. The energy cost of melting is just too prohibitive for any large-scale application. It makes it less of a clever hack and more, a losing battle against thermodynamics.
It forces you to appreciate that nature sets certain energy bars, and sometimes brute force in the wrong direction is just futile. And there you have it, our deep dive into Matt's hilariously brilliant question. We started with the wild idea of a flamethrower snowblower, and through that we uncovered some pretty surprising scientific truths. Why microwaves kind of suck at melting ice, the absolutely mind-boggling energy needed to melt snow, and the utterly impractical fuel demands of even the most energy-dense fuels. Our mission here at The Deep Dive is always to help you gain knowledge quickly but thoroughly, providing those aha moments that make complex science relatable and hopefully genuinely interesting. And this was certainly a journey filled with unexpected challenges and some truly shocking numbers.
Yeah, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, it really highlights that sometimes the most intuitive or, the coolest sounding solution isn't the practical one at all. Physics has its own set of rules, its own fundamental costs for changing states or moving mass. And understanding those rules can save you an incredible amount of time, money, and a whole lot of fuel. It's a great example of how critical thinking can lead you from a seemingly absurd question to some truly fascinating insights about the hidden energetic costs of the world around us. It's not just about snow, it's a profound lesson in thermodynamics and practical engineering.
So it turns out Matt was right about the flamethrower being impractical. And thankfully, no one's driving around with 3 aircraft carrier reactors just to clear their path. However, while a jet engine snowblower solves the energy problem, you might still run into a few other unique challenges trying to use one in your suburban driveway. Perhaps, how to avoid launching your doghouse into orbit, or accidentally redesigning your entire neighborhood's landscaping with a flick of the wrist. That, my friends, is maybe a question for another deep dive. Thanks for joining us, and keep those curious questions coming.